Alrighty, we'll get some people in here and we'll start brewing. Let me figure out some of these. There we go. All right, so going to try to brew with the good old horse. I'm going to bring the horse up on the screen. See if I can throw it out here for the Crested Sunmare. This is a pretty sweet card that was spoiled this evening from Hour of Devastation, and it is one of the best cards for standard in a long time if it's got an enabler. Right now we do have some enablers. Let me zoom it in, see if this doesn't. There we go. That's a little bit bigger for everyone. Of course this just screams like a Kevin card because it is an option for Soul Sisters, whereas you do have Archangel Thune, and I'm trying to figure out if Archangel Thune is better. Like there's pros and cons to this card. Archangel, the turn it comes out, often you swing in for lethal, so you don't even have to wait a turn, or you just really get out of control at that point when you cast the Archangel Thune in Soul Sisters. Whereas Crested Sunmare, though, is one of those that I think that within a turn, you're going to have at least a 5/5 or another 5/5. And if that doesn't win in Modern, 15 power on board, then you might just be too far behind to begin with to win. So I pretty much think that Archangel Thune is slightly better. But, I mean, this is a budget version. If you can't afford the Thunes, and then by all means, I think this is the next best card. I think it's better than Gideon or Elspeth in that slot. And the reason is it pairs incredibly well with all of your Soul Sisters. So the thing about Crested Sunmare is you want it to gain value the turn it comes out. You don't want to have to wait a turn because you have to wait an entire end step for it to happen. It also triggers on each end step. So in Commander, this card's like pretty bonkers in a Life Gain deck because you're going to be gaining a lot of 5/5 horses. And then, Trostani, it's really, really insane with Trostani. In fact, Trostani might have a little bit of a price increase. Can everyone hear me okay in chat? Just type if you can hear me. I know there's not a lot of people in chat. But, yeah. So, I don't know. I think this is by far the most interesting card. Maybe this or Uncaged Menagerie is the most interesting card spoiled so far out of the Hour of Devastation. But this is definitely up there in cards that I definitely want to brew around. So we're going to take a look at it in Standard and see if we can actually make it work. So before you, I have cards. Well, I'll go down further. Of all the cards that actually gain life at the moment, we get a double striking cat that's okay. So the thing is, to have it get value immediately when it comes into play, you need cards and that will gain life on the turn, or actually will synergize with it or gain life on the same turn as you play it. So all of the life linkers will work in this particular build or to synergize with the horse. So Sacred Cat, Glorybound Initiate. Glorybound Initiate is not as good because the Exert it's not as reliable. Aerial Responder is probably the best one that I can think of because it's Flying Vigilance lifelink, so you can actually crack lifelink on the attack in and then hold it back as a blocker to also get lifelink. Aethersphere Harvester can work because you synergize it off of when it comes into play, then you can crew the Aethersphere Harvester. And then, other than that, though, if you go away from the lifelink card, as you can see, there's not a lot of cards at the moment in Standard that have like reliable lifelink. I think that the deck, you're either going to be going mono white, green white, or green black. I like green black, or excuse me, white black, because white-black just seems to have access to better lands. Shambling Vent and the Concealed Courtyard, I think, work out better for this type of deck. I think the enemy color decks are easier to play at the moment. Lone Rider, we can't forget about Lone Rider because the synergy with this card is actually pretty crazy with the horse. Now, of course, there might be some other horses, a horse, coming out because it does give other horses indestructible. But I mean, that just might just be giving itself indestructible. But yeah, a lot of the lifelinkers also are going to be in black. So there is some goodies for sure that have lifelink. Kalidas, Gisela, those type of cards are great. As they synergize perfectly, it's a 4/5, and then you can attack in that turn. And other than that, though, like when you get up to like the Felidar Sovereign, though, I just still think that that's a little bit unreasonable. Regal Caracal to a bit. This kind of has the same spot, but I think you might want to put it if you're going the mono white version. Regal Caracal will probably need to be in it. So the other way to go with this deck would be definitely cards that get life immediately without having to deal with lifelink damage to get immediate value. One of them is going to be the Pious Evangel, and it says whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. So your horse comes into play, you gain the life trigger, and then you get another horse. So you end up gaining 2 life, get a horse at the end of turn, and then you get the immediate value out of your card. And you want that to happen because if your card gets answered, so they play like a Fumigate, or there's a lot of sorcery speed removal like Never Return that people are playing at the moment, or they need to actually untap for the mana to cast that Harness Lightning, you at least get a horse behind. And it's a 5/5 horse, and that's actually pretty decent in the format at the moment. The only cards that I can identify without going the lifelink strategy at the moment that gain life is going to be cards like the Evangel, and then we have Retreat to Hagra, because you cast it turn 3 and then turn 5, hopefully you're dropping a land, gaining each opponent losing life, you're gaining a life, then the horse comes out. The Offshoot can work if you're in green. Aetherlux Reservoir, I don't like it, but it is a card that does go 4/5, so it synergizes quite well. If you're going to do a heavy life gain strategy, Aetherlux Reservoir of course can be your finisher. But it's something I don't like. The Emissary, though, is pretty good, because the Emissary will drain your opponent at the beginning of your upkeep, and you'll get that horse at the end step. So, yeah, here's another lifelinker in the Angel of Invention. So beyond the lifelink guys, Indulgent Aristocrat's pretty sweet too. Yeah, this one's actually really good. Just another 1/1 lifelinker. We also have a lot of vampires synergize with the Vampire Cutthroat, which also has a synergy with the Kalidas. But there is interesting little madness tricks too. I've noticed, like Alms of the Vein and Call of the Bloodline, that can get the life on your opponent's turn. We'll talk about that in a second. But let's see if we can find any other life gaining things that happen with life gain on immediately when it comes into play. See if we can identify any of those. So I'm just going to type in gain life, and then this should pull up everything in standard at the moment. And you can see there's like Implement Improvement. This card is going to be sweet for gaining life on your opponent's turn and drawing a card. So basically 2 mana, you're gaining 2 life and drawing a card, which is basically what Renewed Faith does. So both of those I think are actually pretty good options. And Vampiric Rites is another one. Eily, Vampiric Rites. I think there's another one that sacrificed a creature that then gained life. So the Eily, the Eternal Pilgrim. This card works pretty sweet. Anointed Processions can work with the tokens, but the tokens aren't going to come out until like you'll get that life at the beginning of your end step, or at the end of your end step after the horse comes into play, but then you're still not getting it again. That's kind of tough. I mean, you could go where the horse could go in the hidden stockpile decks that are going around right now. I think it's definitely a good option. Yeah, cards like Blessed Alliance, of course, are going to be great ways on your opponent's turn, but let's see if there's anything else that when it enters the battlefield, it does something. Or a creature entering the battlefield. Callista Healer is kind of cool, except the fact that it's not an ally that's entering the battlefield. Collective Brutality, another great one. Trespasser's Curse is really cool on your opponent. Zulport Cutthroat 2 is pretty decent. Because Trespasser's Curse can get that life on your opponent's turn if they cast a creature. But at that point, I think they just hold back and don't cast creatures. Monument, there we go. Monument actually does synergize with the horse. So whenever you cast a creature spell, each opponent loses a life and you gain a life. Black creature spells cost 1 less is actually decent with if you are going like the Cletus or the Aetherborn Marauder. It's definitely something that can reduce those, but I probably don't suggest Bantu being in there for that. It does synergize though, which is nice because it's going to get to that life gain immediately when the horse comes into play. Cards like the where was it? The Lux River Shrine, I think, are just too weak because if you can get enough shrine counters on it, you still are going to be behind by the time that you want to be casting the horse for the tap ability. Otherwise, it's going to cost you 6 mana. Let's see here. Yeah, Alms. Bantu is another one that's really cool, like Eiley. Bantu can sacrifice another creature, scry 1, and each opponent loses a life and you gain a life. That will work. Faith of the Devote is probably too tough. I mean, it can work with like a Madness Alms in the Vein type strategy, but I don't see it happening. What is Desert's Hold? Is that a new card that comes out? We'll look at Desert's Hold. I'll type it up in the see if I can find the Desert's Hold. I'm not finding on Mythic Spoiler. Huh. There we go. I found it. Okay. So let me pull this up. Desert's Hold. Okay, this is just the pacifism. Yeah, the pacifism card. It's acceptable, but again, it's not what it doesn't have flash. I think that card is it needs flash for it to work. I think for what we want it to do by gaining life. Gaining life on your turn is going to be very easy. It's going to be gaining life on your opponent's turn because again, the horse triggers off of the every end step, just not your end step. So Essence Depleter, not so much. Essence Extraction is a great one for your opponent's turn, but I don't know if it's actually worthwhile. Vampire Envoy would be kind of sweet with like Cryptoth Rite, or same thing with Night Market Lookout. So both of these with Cryptoth Rite are kind of interesting. Yeah. So, but at that point, I just think it's quite janky, and then you have to go into green and black. So I don't know about this one. Alrighty. Abandoned the Sarcophagus, is that the cycling card? We'll look at some spoilers in a second. I'll probably do another spoiler video coming out. Cards like Peace of Mind do work with any sort of madness type strategy. I don't know if that's the right route to go. We have a lot of instant speed cards like Tandem Tactics that are fun. Let's see. Any other suggestions in the comment section if you found something that enters the battlefield and gives you that life right off the bat? Because these are the good ones, and I think we want to run at least some amount of those. So yeah, the retreat then, yeah, the other retreat. So both retreats work, which does make green look very interesting because green has a lot of really cool cards. Like the Appetite of the Natural is starting to seem a lot better. If anyone's played Standard lately, we're starting to see some of the old school builds really come back in full force. We're talking Prized Amalgam, Metalwork Colossus. Remember the good old improvised deck that tried to get out the discard demon. We're also seeing the Eighth Flux Reservoir type decks coming back. A lot of artifact based decks, and I think Appetite is going to be a good card again. It's the mid-range artifact based decks. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. I'm the best at getting off topic. But Appetite's really, really powerful for green. Cards like Graphmole and Gift of Paradise. This is a card I want to talk about with Gift of Paradise because it synergizes quite well. You gain the 3 life when it comes into play, and then you add mana to then cast the... And Lone Rider only needs 3, right? Yep. So Lone Rider, it synergizes insanely well with Lone Rider too. So if we're in green-white, Lone Rider into Gift of Paradise does seem pretty decent. Let's see here. Bloodhammer Bat's legal in Standard? Is it? It must be in one of those weird decks. Oh, maybe it's coming out in the Nicol Bolas versus, or what is the Planeswalker? Yeah, the Nicol Bolas deck. I don't know. Is it in one of them? Maybe the Liliana deck. All right, so I guess Dovin synergizes, but at that point you're in blue. And this actually does have a nice curve, 4 into 5. So you go Dovin and then +1 it, and then -1 it to gain life. And then all of these are going to be too late after that to come out. So like Linvala, yeah, all of these are just later on. Battle of the Bridge. Battle of the Bridge is pretty sweet with the improvise being able to reduce its cost, but at that point it's going to be tough to synergize. All right, so I don't know. I think that it's going to be some sort of Pious Evangel list to gain the life immediately. It's probably the key. So let's talk about cards that actually gain life on your opponent's turn. So cards that can do so, of course, as the lifelink type cards, but we have Eiley that can sacrifice a creature and gain life equal to its toughness. That's 5 life per turn. Even if you only have a horse to sacrifice, then Eiley works with this because you're gaining 5 life and then replacing it with another horse. And then once you get above that, the particular cost of, or the 30 life total, then you can start sacrificing creatures to exile online permanents, which is insanely good. I really like Combo here. Combo Console of allocations can, whenever opponent casts a non-creature spell, they lose 2 life and you gain 2 life. That one is really, really powerful with this strategy because then if they even cast something to try to kill your creature, at that point, we don't really have anything like a God's Willing, I don't think, in the format. Blossoming Defense is in white. I'll have to look and see if there's anything that's like protection or indestructible to your creatures until end of turn. Mind you, if you have 2 horses out, though, they will give each other indestructible, which is going to be very, very good. So we have Renewed Faith that can cycle. We have Blessed Alliance, which can gain 4 life. It's also very versatile. Opponent sacking a creature, untapping creatures, works with Glorbound Initiate. We have the Prepare Fight, which also works with Glorbound Initiate. Also gives some incentive to try to go into green, because green does have some really, really sweet cards, one of which is Pulse of Marasa, which we can cast on our opponent's turn, get back a creature. At this point, you can get back like even a Glorybound Initiate or a Lone Rider or like something like Casella, is very, very powerful. Felidar Sovereign is something I think that's probably just too cute for this deck. It does have that synergy, but I don't know if that's the right route. Woodville's Puzzlenaut can sacrifice on an opponent's turn. It also has the green energy. I don't know if there's anything it cares about energy, though, at this particular point. We have also all the Destroy type cards. We talked about those. Implement of Improvement for your opponent. You could, even with Implement of Improvement, too, we can go into some sort of the Revolt card. I talked about it, the Enchantment Revolt card, Hidden Stockpile, and then Anointer Priest. And both of these also can get those tokens on your opponent's turn and then gain life. You have it with like even Zulport Cutthroat, and that's a lot of ways to. But I think that building that deck's pretty much done. The absent tokens. I don't know if the horse just fits in the deck quite well. So the Stonehaven Medic is I don't think it's worthwhile for the Stonehaven Medic. I think there's just better ways to gain life. If you madness in a Alms, that's a way to gain life. Again, Bantu works. And Peace of Mind can also work in cards like Essence Extraction. I'm sure there's a few other we've missed in all of these gain life type effects. If there's one that sticks out, just shout it out in the comment section, and then we'll get to Brewing. So I think black-white is the way to go, and I also think more of the lifelink strategy is probably the best way to. Yeah, we talked about Trespasser's Curse. It's something that is definitely. Oh, another one, Authority of the Consuls. Forgot to say Authority of Consuls. This one's pretty sweet for a sideboard type card. It is yeah, it's there. I don't know if there's many decks that we really care other than the life gain. We're already pretty good at gaining life, so I don't know if Authority of the Console is the right way. So let's just load up another deck here. We'll start from scratch. We'll call this one Horses, and I'm just going to put in its place a placeholder. We'll put in Archangel of the. Oh, that's standard. We just need a Cloud Blazers will be the place of the horse, just because it. Actually, Cloud Blazer does synergize with the horse, but a little bit, not really. But so I think Black White's the way to go for sure. And the Blighted Steppe gets really cool. I think Blighted Steppe is worthwhile. We'll see if we have room for it, if we need to actually run a lot of... We'll start with the mana base, which is going to be probably going to be running between 24 and 25 lands to be able to guarantee to get the horse out on time. 23 is minimum you need for a 5-drop to curve out. But we do have... a really sweet mana base with Shambling Vents and Concealed Courtyards. We could go the Evolving Wilds if we are going in any sort of Revolt type strategy. Like I said, there was the Revolt card that did destroy an artifact, the Decommission, and gain some life. But I'm not quite sure that's needed. So as far as the lifelink cards are concerned, we have awesome options for them. So I don't know if we want to go like Indulgent Aristocrat or the Vampire Cutthroat. Sacred Cat, I think, is a must in here. And that gives us our 1-drop. We could also run the Indulgent Aristocrat. Skulk does seem... Aristocrat probably does... No, are we running a lot of vampires? I call the Bloodline. But at that point, I don't think we care. So I think that just running the 1-drop with the Sacred Cat is fine. The Glorybound Initiates and the Lone Riders are great. And that basically gives us our creature base that we need. Gifted Aetherborn will probably want to be in here as well. And the Aether Sphere Harvester. Again, we can probably end up cutting some cards here, as this has already pretty much clogged up our creature. The Area Responder also is insanely good. So... start off like this. The Baleful Amit, I don't know if this one is worthwhile. A 4/3 lifelinker for 3 mana. We only have to put, so it's a 3/2 for 3. We'd have to put a -1/1 counter on something. At that point, I mean, killing off a Sacred Cat would be fine, but I'm not quite sure this is needed. The Gacella is also another option. The Marauder's kind of cool with other vampire, or this one actually isn't a vampire, it's an Aetherborn Rogue, huh? So there's not a lot of +1/+1 counters to take away, so it is a 2/2 flying lifelinker, but it's just weaker than the other cards. And even cards like Kalidas, I think, would want to be in this particular deck. So here's a good baseline for creatures, and I don't think we'd need any more. That would put us up to 30 creatures, which is way too much. So in all honesty, I'm not even quite sold on like the Sacred Cat or the Lone Rider. I think Lone Rider does have a lot of synergy. Maybe it's the Arrow Responder or the Gacellas. Gacella is actually pretty good in the meta at the moment. It still does die to Fatal Push, Grasp with Darkness, Harness Lightning quite easily, but it does... Oh, it does die to Glorybringer as well. So so does Kalidas in that, but we get a lot of value out of Kalidas. So I think we're going to put this off to the side here and probably run something like this for our creature base. That puts us at 24 creatures, which is... No, we want Combo in here as well. So for sure, Eiley and Combo will have to come in. And then we're getting really, really... And I think Combo is something you'd want like a 3 of. And Eiley would want to be... Eiley would want to be a 2 of or a 3 of as well. And I like the Death Touchers. So you can see how crowded this space gets with the creatures. Aether Harvester is probably right with the 2 of. I don't think you'd want to go more than a 2 of. The Gifted Aetherborn and Eiley are great because they have Death Touch. They add that control element to it. I think Glorybound Initiate, in all honesty, I don't think that Sacred Cat is the right call for this deck. I think it's actually quite weak. This would put us at 25 creatures. If there is any other creatures that would want to be in here, I'm not quite sure what they'd be. Now, as far as control, Blessed Alliance is really good in this one. We also talked about the cards that got immediate value. You'd probably want a full 4 of Blessed Alliance because it's the way to get the Lone Rider flipped over. And we'd have to test to see if Lone Rider is actually worthwhile. Our 2-drop slot is incredibly crowded. The Glorybound Initiate is something that's bad against the artifact dude, the Walking Ballista, and so is Lone Rider for that. Yeah, they're both kind of weak against Walking Ballista. Yeah, I could see the 2-and-2 package. I'd have to just it takes some testing to see if Gisela is worthwhile. The thing is, Gisela does allow for like the Bruna, and this could give you the package, the old school package of all the legendary with the Thales Lancers, and then you could go. I mean, Bruna would be a sideboard card against those really grindy matchups to get the Gisela Bruna. But again, I don't know if that's the right way to go with this. I like the combo route. The combo is super sweet with the horse. So what are some? So Bantu, maybe a 1 of Bantu the Glorified. As well, yeah, Bantu the Glorified I think is still okay. And then what do we want to be sacrificing? The whole thing is there's not a lot of things to sacrifice. It works the same way Eiley does. With you can at least describe, even if you have to kill a 5/5 horse, you get another one. But there's not any sort of token. Yeah, I'm gonna put this one off to the side if we can find. The Monument too is interesting with the horse. And we did say we wanted the Anointed, so, or not the Anointed, the Pious. Jeez. Yeah, I don't know if that's better to go Zulpor Cutthroat type strategy. This just seems harder to... It seems like most off we can get one of these creatures in for damage a lot easier than just keeping the Pious Evangel on board. So, and then I don't know as well if we want to go the Retreat. The Retreat would be something Evolving Wilds is pretty good with. I don't think Evolving Wilds, though, because you're only getting 1 and then 1. So it just depends on like how we would... Jeez, now I'm looking at Retreat to Hagar. How come I haven't built Retreat with Walking Ballista yet? Just seems insane. Death Touch on the Ballista. Evolving Wilds does allow it for our opponent. Yeah, so I do like the Retreat to Hagra, the taxing element to it. But I don't know if we're just becoming too cute at that point. Or if I even need to worry about this many lifelinking cards. This would be the aggressive version. The non would be, you'd want to go into like more combos and maybe just stick with just the Gifted Aetherborn at the 2-drop slot. Yeah, I'm not even sold on the Lone Rider or the Glorybound Initiate. I'd rather run like the removal spell because your horses are going to take over the game. So who cares if you gain some life early on? I mean, of course, this guy can become a threat. Still dies to Fatal Push and Grasp of Darkness even though it flips. Still dies to Harness Lightning quite easily. So again, I'm not sold on either the Glorybound Initiate. Other than the Glorybound Initiate does have really good synergy with Blessed Alliance. So does the Lone Rider. At this point, though, that'd probably be more the mono white version rather than having to go into any of these other. But the 2 cycling cards just seem to have a lot of... I mean, you're getting a free horse, you're drawing a card later on. In early game, these can be cycled away quite easily. So... yeah. Huh. The creature-based, you definitely would have room for Anguish Unmaking. You're gaining so much life that this could be a key removal spell, like as a 2 of. Also have access to like Fatal Push. That makes Evolving Wilds. We probably would want to run Evolving Wilds because the Fatal Push combo would work with it. And then even cards like Grasp of Darkness. I think the removal package would definitely look something like this. Grasp is actually really good again in the format with Glorybringers and Avacyn's everywhere. We have also access to the Castaway, which is pretty decent. I don't know if we need, or Cast Out. Why do I keep calling it Cast Out? But Anguish Unmaking I think is just superior to Cast Out. Yeah, I'm actually thinking that neither of these are good in this particular deck. Mono white, yes. The black though, it's probably something like 2 Blessed Alliances, 3 Fatal Pushes, 2 Grasp of Darkness main, 2 Anguish Unmakings, and then we have access to. I mean, even at that point, you can even put in Liliana. Liliana is great at reanimating a spell. Aerial Responder, I do think, is the card that, I mean, it dies a Grasp of Darkness Fatal Push quite easily as well, but it's legitimately the one that's going to get in there for the damage, the lifelink damage, easier than any other card. So I wouldn't be against putting this as a four of. And same thing with Gifted Aetherborn. It's Death Touch lifelink. It's going to do the work. It's going to get you to the later game. The Cletus plus all the removal is pretty sweet. I know it's a non-bo with Anguish Unmaking, but it's still good. And just the 2 of Gisella's. Like I really think that our 2-drop slot was way crowded, and Gifted Aetherborn is the best one out of that slot. It's better than Lone Rider. It's better than Glorybound Initiate. But a mono white version could easily. I mean, we could go mono white just for simplicity's sake and not go any of the black. I just really like the options that black gives us. The retreats are still really good. What were some other cards that I was talking about that give immediate value, though? I was so obsessed with immediate value, and now we're kind of shying away from. Oh yeah, it was the Dranas. This card, I think the Emissary, is probably actually even better than the Aerial Responder in this particular build, as it gives the immediate beginning of your upkeep. Each opponent lose 1 life, you gain 1 life. You don't even have to swing in at that point. And so yeah, the black white version would definitely be this. Gives a lot of things to do with. Aether Harvest gets a lot better with the Sacred Cat, but cards like Combo and Eiley can still definitely crew it. Bontu would probably want to be in this list somewhere, and yeah, Walking Ballista Call. I really like the Walking Ballista with retreats. A lot of the cards from Oath of the Gatewatch and Battle for Zendikar, people have just forgotten about. It's kind of weird how everyone obsesses over the even like the top tier decks. People kind of obsess with the latest set and build around the latest set and forget about the older sets. There's a lot of juicy cards out of the Oath of the Gatewatch and the Battle for Zendikar. It always makes me wonder if Oath and Battle were the latest sets, what the decks would look like. Like if the Amonkhet and Kaladesh had existed for quite a while, and all of a sudden we were getting released with Battle for Zendikar, what kind of decks would exist? Just because people get stuck in the metagame. Like, and it's hard for people to really. It takes a while for when they do identify broken things like the Sealy combo and Aetheric Marvel. Of course, it's going to be solved very, very quickly, and there's very little room for innovation and really growth in the format. But it's funny, though, how people get kind of set, and once a metagame gets established, people are going to play those decks anyway, and it almost leads to a self-fulfilling prophecy where, oh, look, Temur Energy won the last big tournament. Oh, I'm going to play Temur Energy. Okay, so 40 decks out of 100 start playing Temur Energy, and of course there's going to be 3 or 4 of them make the top 8 just because of the numbers game. And it's kind of interesting what really would happen if Battle for Zendikar was being released, and we're seeing all these juicy cards from that set, and people are like, oh, the retreats are cool. It's just, I don't know, just some food for thought. So it's always worthwhile to go back to those old sets and see what they have to offer. Anyway, we're getting way off topic here. What's up, Corey? I'm trying to read through the. It's so late at night here. I'm in my. We had some people come in and want to stay at the store, so we obliged. So we're keeping the store open for some filthy casual Commander players who want to play a late night game. So I thought I'd do some live stream brewing. So apologize if I'm starting to veer off into tangents. I'm definitely not a late night person when it comes to streaming. Yeah. So I think that this is the best way to get the most bang for your buck. We have a little bit of flex spots still for other removals, maybe like a Sorin, maybe a Liliana here. Both of these are pretty good. They have pretty decent synergy, like a one of Sorin and a one of Liliana. As the Lilianas can then get back anything that's died, get back your cat if they have a way to deal with it. It's kind of interesting though to play Liliana in a self-mill strategy to get back the cat, or why do you call the cat a horse? Speaking of cat, we do have access to the cat. The Regal Caracal could definitely go in this slot too, but I mean they're really competing at the 5-drop. We don't want to curve out too high. I still do like Evolving Wilds because Evolving Wilds does the littler Liliana would work here too. Evolving Wilds synergizes with the Fatal Push or any other Revolt cards that we might end up putting in this, like the Revolt, destroy an artifact or an artifact or enchantment and gain life. Let's see here. Anything that we're just flat out missing? Is there a good? Of course, in the sideboard would be cards like Transgress and Lay Bare. Dispossess is really good at the moment. Dispossess. Lost Legacy is still fine in the format. So, I mean, it'd be some sort of combination of these cards. Yeah, don't think Bantu's Monument is quite worthwhile. And the last slots we could just put in with the... We have lots of ways to gain life through attacking, gain life through our opponent casting a spell. Blessed Alliance can then gain life or kill creatures. It probably, I think, just like even Renewed Faith or Implement of Improvement. I think Renewed Faith is probably a little more powerful than Implement of Improvement, as you do have to spend. No, you spend the 1 mana and your opponent. This one's just easier to cycle away. Late game, you can gain 6 life for 3 mana if you don't want the card. I guess, and see, the Renewed Faith works for the mono white version. All right, let's just not be tricky. Let's go horse 3 here and try just mono white and see what we can come up with. Sometimes less options is good. Yeah, so Selfless Spirit would be good at a 2-drop, sure. Yeah, green for the Blossoming's fine. We don't really have any other way to give Indestructible besides Selfless Spirit. Yeah, Selfless Spirit probably, I don't know if it'd want to be in the main. Definitely the sideboard. We'd have access to Avacyn as well for the Avacyn Selfless Spirit combo. And even Fumigate. With the Fumigate does seem pretty good. We'll keep that in mind for this mono white version. So let's go for mono white. So this time we have the, we'll go with the Lone Rider. We'd want to go Lone Rider. We'd want to go the... I'm having a brain fart here. Glorybound Initiate, and possibly the Sacred Cat, because we'd want a good curve with this particular one. Always Watching actually does seem pretty sweet in this particular build. It has a nice little curve. Then we would want the Aether Sphere Harvester. I'm not sure how many. Possibly 3 to 4 of in this one, because it's the best way to synergize to get that life immediately. By throwing out the horse, crewing, and attacking. Then we have Aerial Responder would want to be in here, and we have a lot less options at this point, so the Gazelle would probably want to be in here as well. We have then the Evangel could definitely go in here as another way to trigger off but it's probably unnecessary with all these lifelink cards. And at this point, implement of improvement, and this would allow for a super low land count too with the other cycling card, with the Renewed Faith. And Renewed Faith does have the ability to, for 3 mana, flip the Lone Rider. So there's also some synergy there. So then Regal Caracal is going to be the kind of the slot. This is the horse for everyone. And then for control, we have this combo we could put in the sideboard. It could definitely be in the main. I don't know if it's worthwhile. There's not a lot of decks at the moment that, like if you're going against green black, for example, or even zombies, I'm not sure you'd need to run like Selfless Spirit in the main, and you would want to bring in Fumigate later on. But in my opinion, there's not enough decks that you have to run this in main. But this in the combo between the Fumigate, the Selfless Spirit, and the Archangel Avacyn is definitely an option. Something like this. This allows us to play. We can easily play like a 21 land count with the Renewed Faith and the Implement of Improvement because you're cycling them away. You want Blessed Alliance in here. And wasn't there another card that worked well? Authority Consuls could definitely be in the sideboard against like zombie type decks. I don't think this deck is just going to, against any other deck that does damage, is going to do quite well. I don't think we want Peace of Mind. Peace of Mind is kind of cool to gain life on your opponent's turn, but I think we're going to rely on like Blessed Alliance, Renewed Faith, and Implements. Tandem Tactics is also another one that could work. But other than that, we forgot Feel Familiar. This is kind of cool to gain life, but again, it's not gonna be necessary. So let's see what else we have. Let's kind of dumb down our options here. Yeah, Decommission's fine, the sideboard. This would leave us with 20 lands. You know what? I actually think this would be a pretty formidable deck. Probably want to cut down maybe an 8th. No, 8th Harvester is definitely a 4 of. Maybe cut down the Gacellas. Gacella can go in the sideboard, and then Bruna is an option as well in the sideboard for those really, really grindy decks to get it back. This can also get a human back, correct? Yeah, a human, which can go get the Lone Riders or the Glorybound Initiates back. So possibly even Sacred Cat could be cut here, or it doesn't need to be a 4 of, as our 2-drop slot is quite loaded. Yeah, let's see here. Let's go back to gain life. Still want some sort of castaways, I'm sure, or cast outs. So Sacred Cat in all honesty probably doesn't want to be in this deck. I just don't think it does enough. It does chump block for a turn, gain a life. It does, but I mean this is going to be gaining life the turn you want it to. This is going to be gaining life. Same with the Aerial Responder. All these are going to be curving quite well into, and you want higher impact cards. So a card like Sacred Cat could be cut, and then you could bring in more of the removal type stuff like the cast outs, which also give access to cycling. We get it, in all honesty, we could run like a 20 land deck with I don't know, it'd probably be something like that, a 22 land deck. Any suggestions in the sideboard? Yeah, Authority Consuls definitely, but Authority Consuls wouldn't want to be in the main. We do have lots of ways to gain life in our opponent's turn. Blessed Alliance Implements. I mean, right here's 12 ways on our opponent's turn once it's out. But the black-white one, though, with Eiley does seem powerful. Too bad, I mean, could run X-Mage or something like that to test it out in the meta. The deck does seem to have game, though. There's a lot of creature-based decks that I think even the Archangel Avacyn Selfless Spirit combo is super good against at the moment. There's a mono, if anyone's seen the mono white list, it does run Archangel Avacyn Selfless Spirit, and the 2/3 Bygone Bishop. Like that is actually pretty decent. And again, we're seeing a huge like rotation in standard right now with people going back to old school decks that were good. I think it might be just a matter of time before people go back to like the old school Liliana Delirium deck with Ishkanah and Liliana and just run a lot of the Grim Flayer, or is it, yeah, Grim Flayer, that's the card, the Delirium card, the Ishkanah, the even like maybe even the Ishkanah Prize Amalgam old school list with the Prize Amalgams, the Elder Deep Fiends. Like there's a lot of room for standard. A lot of decks just open wide open without the Aetherworks Marvel in the format, and it seems like we do have enough hate to really deal with Mardu. And Gideon's just not as good as it once was with Glorybringer. I'm kind of eating my words on that card because I really thought that Gideon would need to be banned for healthy format, but Mardu seems to be kept in check by a lot of the destroy. The Fatal Push is keeping the Heart of Kran in check, and the Glorybringer is keeping Gideon in check. So, yeah. Where were we going with this, though? So, we're trying to brew around, once again, we're trying to brew around the, let me bring it back up here. This guy, the Crested Sunmare. The horse, the 5/5 for 5 mana horse. At the beginning of each end step, if you gain life this turn, create a 5/5 white horse creature token. So, for all of you that are joining the stream, that's what I'm really trying to brew with. Yeah, I thought even Inspector would be a pretty decent 1-drop. I don't know. It's... Yeah, the 2-drop Pump Spell with Aftermath as lifelink Prepare Fight could go in here to... It does work with like both the Lone Rider and the Glorybound Initiate, but we don't really have... I guess you could splash white with the... or green with the Cycling Land. And that way we could actually get rid of the cast outs in the... I'm actually okay with that. And that would be our only splash for white. And... we'd have Scattered Groves. What's the... Probably the Canopy is the better one. Maybe 2 and 2 with the... And then the rest just being Plains and the Blighted Cataract. So we could go... this could also give us access to a more versatile sideboard with a few green cards. I don't think we'd still want Blossoming Defense though, because the groves can be cycled later on if we needed to be. That's why I would prefer... I don't know. Actually, I don't even know if we'd prefer the Scattered Groves over things like Canopy Vista or the Fortified Village. I think they come into play a lot of the times untapped. But so maybe like a 2 of, something like that. More Fortifieds, more Canopies, and then the rest, like we have Plains. And a couple Blighted not Blighted Cataracts. What was the one that was the Blighted Steps? Because Blighted Steps, something we can, at least like 2 of them, I would say, is another way to gain life. Isn't there another desert that gains life right now? I'm not quite sure. No, it puts it pays life, and then it puts counters on cards. So yeah, there is access like Immolating Glare, Puncturing Light. We have Blessed Alliance, and I actually think Prepare Fight is pretty decent removal. It's also ways for you to gain life with your lifelink cards, and all 4 is probably okay. Like this deck actually does seem pretty solid. We'd have to cut a few cards here. Maybe like that for the 21 lands. Because these are going to be drawing cards. All of these ones are the cycling cards are going to be drawing cards. So they allow us to run definitely a still maybe 23 lands, because we are going to be very intensive for our mana. We want to be casting cards and holding up mana late game for casting like a Blessed Alliance. So 22 lands, something like that. I don't know if these fortified villages and Canopy Vistas end up like messing up our mana base if like the Scatter Grows are just better. But I actually think this is quite solid. It has a very, very good curve. The curve is incredible. Of course, we're skipping our 1-drop. That makes these actually a lot better because these can come into play tapped on turn 1. All of these, and really no problem. You could go up in the Scatter Groves even. And then turn 2, you're going to be casting an Initiator, a Lone Rider. And then turn 3, we have the Responder or the Aether Harvester. Turn 4 has you casting cards like Blessed Alliance at that point, the Implement of Improvement, and then cycling it and still casting something else. Then we have Gisela. That probably, I don't know if it wants to be a 4. You'd have to figure out what amount of each creature you want. Maybe the Aether Harvester, a low creature count, is not wanted as such a high. The whole reason I like the Aether Harvester, though, is the synergy with the horse. Just this, I closed the horse here, but the turn you cast it, so after like a board wipe, for example, you cast the horse, and you can immediately crew the Aether Harvester, and then attack with the Aether Harvester, gain the life off of it. You will have to have the energy, so maybe I'm overvaluing the energy that the Harvester, I mean, that's the only way to gain it. And again, you could easily put at the 1-drop slot the Thraben Inspector. Every white deck usually does run it just because of how good it is at playing the chump block. The ability to give it even lifelink with a Prepare, for example, to make another cat at that point. But I think at that point you can just put a Prepare on your own creature. So yeah, I don't know. What does everyone think? I think that at this point you could even put Blossoming Defenses in the sideboard. It would it require a lot of testing to see if this archetype actually is viable. I don't think we want Anointed Procession at that point. It just seems like it's more of a win more card, as it just really just you're already getting a 5/5 and a 5/5 at that point, and then if you're gaining life in your opponent's turn, there's another 5/5. Anointed Procession, yeah, you're gaining 2, and it does have the turn 4, but I really think it's gonna crowd what you want to be doing on that particular turn. So the only problem I have with this mono white version is the only thing that gets synergy with, unless we go into the Pious Evangel, is the Aether Harvester. And just the Pious Evangel by itself just doesn't seem like it's viable. At that point, you need something like Serene Steward to get more value out of gaining life. But this activation is really, really tough. So you put a +1 counter on a creature. You get it every time you gain a life. Your creatures get bigger. Sure, you throw this on like a Lone Rider or an Aerial Responder. It makes it. It's just so. It's really crowded in the space of Lone Rider and Glorbound Initiate. Yeah. All of the other cards that immediately gain value are going to be in black or green with either the Retreats or like the Bantu's Monument. I guess you can just play the Bantu's Monument in this particular deck. Yeah, a Jade Offshoot, same thing. You can throw it in, but it's awkward for this deck. This deck wants to be an aggro deck. It's trying to be aggressive, and it's really overpowering after the horse comes out. You do want to be able to win without the horse, and that's why Lone Rider and Glorbound Initiate are pretty decent in this particular build, though, because and probably why you do need to go the full Giselas, because yeah, Harvester is probably the cut down to a 2 of, because we can still rely on the lifelink hitting your opponent on that particular turn. You'll get the horse on that turn, probably not get anything on your opponent's turn unless we have Authority of the Consuls. Definitely an option to throw out. That could be the 1-drop. But then you'll have a 5/5 horse, 2 5/5 horses, all the other aggressive cards you've had out. The Glorbound Initiate can swing in for 4 that turn. A Lone Rider that most likely is flipped to a 4/4. And then the deck has access to like indestructible cards in the sideboard. So all in all, not too shabby. Another card that I actually think isn't terrible for the sideboard. I know Fumigate probably has more synergy because we'll be gaining life. You sacrifice the Selfless Spirit, Fumigate, you gain life, kill all your creatures, and then still get a horse and lose nothing. Also can protect your horse. But the Aftermath card actually does seem pretty sweet with the Dusk Dawn in this particular matchup because you destroy all creatures power 3 or greater. Actually, no, it doesn't. It kills your Glory Initiate. I was thinking that everything dodged, like the Lone Rider would dodge and the Arrow Responder, but yeah, I guess not. Never mind. Scratch that. So, anything that I'm just flat out missing for the mono white. Again, green gets kind of cool with the retreats, and we also have the Jada Offshoot, and at that point we could go even like Nissa's Renewal type. I don't know if you'd actually want that, but we have a lot of ways to gain life out of green. And Pulse of Marasa actually does seem pretty sweet because it's just... Maybe we could try a green version, but in all honesty, I think I don't know if the late night stream is such a good idea. I'm starting to doze off. Yeah, Monument, I don't know. Monument is something that I think you'd want more synergy than just gaining a life when you cast a creature. And our creature count's actually quite low. I don't see us really shying away from these type of prepare fights in Blessed Alliance. I have wanted to get Lone Rider to work for quite some time. We can queue this up just to... I'm going to play a game with this deck. I'm not going to buy the Archangel Avacens because I'm too cheap at the moment. Let's see here. We'll cut some Harvesters. Keep some cast outs in the sideboard. Probably want another Authority. Well, yeah, we'll want another Authority of the consoles. And what, something like this? All right, let me get the rest of the cards here real quickly. What do we need? Just prepare fights and that's it? And Blessed Alliances? And I'll queue up a game and we'll just to test how this deck works without, like, of course the deck is going to want to work without the horse. We'll run the Regal Caracal here just for, I mean, it's a good 5-drop slot. So what do we need here? We need Prepare and Blessed Alliance. And let's go ahead and try this, see how it works. What are we missing? Everything's legal and standard. Why isn't it coming up? Buggy MTGO. Or maybe I'm too tired to even find it. Let's just rename it then. Oh, it's called Mono White Horse. That's why I'm not looking in the right. Is everyone up? There it is. Okay. Derp-a-derp. Which Sacred Cat, I don't know if it's worthwhile. All right, of course we don't keep this hand. It's going to give us a no-lander to start us off. What a jerk MTGO is. And we can keep this one. So at this point, we do want the Prepare fight because it does work well. I don't know, though. It works with Lone... No. We'll put this on bottom because we have the Renewed Faith that synergizes with the Lone Rider. So Concealed Courtyard, which usually means Mardu. Could be anyone just brewing here, though. So I'm just going to throw the fortified village and not reveal anything because it's pointless. And then next turn we have the Lone Rider. It will probably be Fatal Pushed or Grasped. But it's still worthwhile just to throw it out. And so here we have a turn 2 Lone Rider. We're going to be playing a turn 2, most likely. Between Glorybound Initiate and Lone Rider, the turn 2 is going to be almost a given every game. And so here we have a Blessed Alliance too that can gain life. How much do we value the Lone Rider? So if the Lone Rider does damage, I think we can just cycle the Renewed Faith. And when does this trigger? Beginning of the next end step. So beginning of end step, you gain 3 or more life. I could play Renewed Faith. I think we just cycle it. Or I could play Blessed Alliance. We just cycle this, so. And see if it now gets grasped. No. All right, we're in really good shape here. We have a First Strike Trample Lifelinker into a board which might end up with like a Kalitas coming down here. Okay, never. All right, that does work. The thing is, though, the Renewed Faith didn't cost us anything. We're getting closer to the horse. We'll see how well Real Caracal does here in this slot. Another Renewed Faith, but we'll go with Aerial Responder. And we have a Battlements, huh? Not a clue what I'm up against. Some sort of token-based strategy. So the Battlements are trying to get a lot of value. We do miss our land drop. We could cycle a card away. I'm just going to go ahead and attack in with the Responder. And we can YOLO here to try to find a land. I think that's actually proper. Well, it found us a Glorybound Initiate, so that's just as good. Jeez, we get a ton of life here. Maybe Felidar Guardian in the sideboard. Liliana. Doesn't really have anything. It creates 2 tokens. So if we had a land, of course, that would have been awesome. As a horse here would gain 2 life. So we'd be attacking into Liliana, gaining 2 life off of the Aerial Responder, and then getting a horse at the end of turn. Unfortunately, though, this Liliana is going to do a lot of work with the Anointed Procession. So there's another Lone Rider, which will flip after I attack into Liliana. This also can gain a lot of Jeez. We're going to be dealing with a lot of zombies here. So it doubles and then doubles, huh? That's crazy how that works. So it puts in a zombie and then it becomes 2 zombies. And then it gets an extra one off of that. Ugh. Okay. So it'd be horses versus zombies, and I think that I'd have a pretty... I don't know if I can win this at this point. The processions are just going to do too much work. But we get the Regal Caracal here. Which would be the horse, which would then gain a horse token. So we'd have a 5/5 versus... Maybe right there, the Aerial Responders get rid of Liliana. Westville Abbey's going to be a pain. Oh, I can't beat Westville Abbey. Okay, well, it's going to be zombies galore. So we'll lose this. So here's where you bring in the Fumigates. And the Selfless Spirit combo for sure. I don't know if there's anything worth like Prepare Fighting. We didn't see. I'm thinking the Hanwar Garrison is something cool brew though that I just played against. Just like a zombie token. It's very reliant on the Anointed Procession coming out. The cast out for that reason should probably come in. Bruna, will we go late? Authority Consuls could come in versus this one, but I think it's just in this particular deck. It's just like the Prepare Fights and the Blessed Alliances are unnecessary. Want to go heavier on the creatures. And yeah, I'm not even sure Bruno. We don't care about Bruno here. I don't think it really is worth it. Harvester still seems fine. Might be a little bit tougher now with Lone Rider or Glorybound Initiate. We do want the flying. The flying did seem good. The horse, the Regal Caracal is actually very weak in this particular, but I'm just keeping it in just for the sake of, you know, the what ifs. So I think just dropping I hate to drop anything here. I'm going to drop the Glorybound Initiates. Yeah, that's true. Blessed Alliance does have the sack against Ormondal. I could have waited for that. Other than you saw how many tokens were out. There's no way I came back from that. All right, so we'll keep this one as the Fumigate and the Selfless Spirit combo. So we'll start off once again just with the Fortified Village. There's no point. I don't know why so many people reveal cards when there's absolutely 0 point. I'm not spending any mana. So might as well not give my opponent any information. And we'll go the Lone Rider again. Which... now we have the Archangel Avacyn combo with it. So, gonna just put out the Responder. And attack in with the Lone Rider. My opponent's mana base seems very, very awkward with Westville Abbeys and the Hanwar. Needs double black and a white source to really do what my opponent wants to do. So throw up the Lone Rider can bite the dust here. So I don't like about the Lone Rider. Maybe the Glorybound Initiate was just better in that instance. Unfortunately, we missed the drop, so I'm going to go ahead and attack in with the Aerial Responder. Gideon's probably in my opponent's deck too, which means double white, double black, and a bunch of colorless spells. So unfortunately, we miss our land drop as well. And I'm going to go ahead. Yeah, I still think the Harvester is the right play. As it gives us synergy with both Gisela or Selfless Spirit. So here we go. That's exactly what I'm saying. Still needs doubles for a lot of the cards. Whoops, I passed priority there, so Oath of Lilianas are doing their job. Ugh, now I'm wishing I would have think I'm just going to be too slow. But do have a lot of good cards, high impact cards. There's the Garrison, which is actually not that much of a threat. I can just keep back the Harvester. And have a responder. And we have a lot of life gain. What's up, Tasty? You filthy casual. Gets the white source. Kind of disappointed about that. Like I said, the mana base is so awkward, though. And opponent does not decide to attack in smartly. Hopefully I'll find a source. It is my Scatter Grove. I'm actually not liking the Scatter Grove in this particular build. It does allow us to put out another Harvester. Which at this point, I'll just attack in. We can attack him with both. And this allows for crewing. No, I can sack the Selfless Spirit if my opponent's got a removal spell. Not so tough without the Anointed Procession. Okay, so this card is everywhere now. There's just a scoop. Yeah, like I said, the mana base is insanely awkward for my opponent. Might have not had the double white for Gideon. Might not have the double black for Liliana. Just very greedy mana base with both the Hanwar Garrisons and Hanwar Battlements and the Westvale Abbey. So would have drawn a Fortified Village. Ugh. Yeah, I think Canopy Vista is the right card to go full 4 package of. But at this point, we have Gisela coming down too, and Selfless Spirit, really. Okay, so Lone Rider. Is Lone Rider weaker, or is Glorbound Initiate weaker? So Blessed Alliance need to stay in. Absolutely need to stay in. So maybe just get rid of something like Implement of Improvement. At this point, we just don't have a lot of room for it. We still have the Renewed Faith, which I think is just more versatile with the Lone Rider, because you can actually cast it to gain the 6 life if you need to. Fumigates still seem really good. Again, this would be the card that would be cut, would be Regal Caracal, but the horse would still be pretty powerful in this particular match. I still think Gazelle is great. It just still does a great job killing Gideons. The Oath is pretty good against us. Still don't know if I care about Authority of the Consuls. Odric could be all right. I think Odric's been a lot better in the black-white list. Odric's really fun with the Walking Ballista. This is a decent little hand. As the cast out is just really, really versatile. I might be timed, though, with all these Anointed Procession decks and Hidden Stockpile decks and just random Artifact Enchantment decks to run the Destroy a Artifact Revolt card game life, the 3 mana, Artifact or Enchantment. So we'll start off here, I think, with just a Scattered Groves. Or do I want to wait for this to psych? Nah, it's still. We'll play it. See, but now, see, the Canopy Vista is weird when you have a hand like this. So now the double black. There's a Selfless Spirit. Yep, Selfless Spirit is probably worthwhile to chuck down. Cycles away a Canyon Slow. What are Thought Seers in this list? Just there's a lot of sources. That's something that is going to be a little bit difficult. Oh yeah, I do not have a way to answer that at the moment. We have the cast out coming out the next turn, so My opponent is going to get some humans out of this mix. We'd have the Fumigate combo, though, so I'm not too worried about my opponent overextending. And I'll end up just cycling away the Renewed Faith. Again, we're a lifelink deck, so even like the Garrison isn't that threatening. Yeah. I feel like a random Reality Smasher Thought Not Caesar is going to come charging down. Attacking into this with Blessed... See, Blessed Alliance would be good here because make him sack it before the 1/1s come into play. So no Annoying Processions, or I think my opponent would have played it. Another Fortified Village, that's fine because we actually have something to reveal. And another one. And this stops my opponent in their tracks. Not a lot. Thinking over a list of what could be in the deck, I don't know if there's a lot of room for a lot more removal. I think Dark Salvation could be in here. Possibly. Harness Lightning. Okay. Sure. This does give energy for my opponent to cast the double white now with the Aether Hub. I can deal with Liliana with the cast out. So again, this would be 2 horses. Instead of, we'd have a 5/5 horse, another 5/5 horse here instead of 2 life-leaking cats. And then the next turn probably get another horse. All right, so the race is on. My opponent's going to decide to race here, which I don't know if I care too much. I can block, kill off the... this is something... It does have trample, so it's getting in for some damage for sure. Or I could just cast out it next turn. I think we just take the damage. Fumigate also works here. Just to reset the board. I think, though I'm in position. My opponent can't take a lot of hits. And we have Lone Rider and Cast Out that we can cast. So we're just going to go ahead and attack in with both. Or everything here. Here's where Prepare would be really good. Prepare Fight. And going to go for the Chump Block route. And then Lone Rider, and then we'll hold up Cast Out. So didn't get to play against like a tier 1 deck. My opponent is out of energy though. So no Harness Lightning. Yep, there's a concession. So, cool little deck that my opponent built. I did feel like it curved nice, and we might be playing too many spells and not enough creatures, but 8 of those cycle. It'll be interesting to play something like this when the horse does come out, because and this is what I did want to see, is where the Regal Caracal would come into effect. Speaking of Soul Sisters, let me just pop up a Soul Sisters deck here and show you. This is my current build with Soul Sisters. I'm running 4 Archangel of Thunes. I'm trying to get a guy that I met at GP Vegas to come on and do an interview. He went 10-5 with the deck. I think I gave him some bad, what do they call it? Bad juju? Is that the... No, advice. Not bad advice. I went up to a guy and he was 10-2 at GP Vegas, and he just got done in round 12. He was 10-2, and I was like, wow, that's awesome. I was going to play Soul Sisters at GP Vegas, but I got cold feet because of all the Eldrazi Tron that was running out here. And he's like, well, Eldrazi Tron, the way I've got my sideboard built, it's actually okay. And I'm like, oh, and we just discussed Soul Sisters for quite a while, and then he ended up going 10-5. So, like I said, I think I screwed up. My bad luck rubbed off on the poor guy after I talked to him. But still, 10-5 is pretty good in a modern GP. So this is currently my list. It does very well against the Burn, Zoo, mid-range aggro-based decks, Abzan, Death Shadow, all those attrition-based decks it does very well against. And the whole thing is, though, this is the wild card. You don't have room for both. So for the horse in this slot, the horse with Soul Sisters gets immediate value. It gets immediate value with almost every card here. So an Ariak Champion, a Soul Attendant, a Soul Warden, or a Serra Ascendant has the value. You could say maybe we cut the Ranger and throw in the horse. That's not a terrible idea. I think that could, it really puts us, we probably want to go up to 24 lands and then like cut an Honor of the Pure. There's another card that could be cut is Honor of the Pure, but I do like Honor of the Pure's synergy with like Spectral Procession. This is a version that doesn't run Squadron Hawk or the Martyr of Sands. I've had versions that do run those type of cards. So here's a version with Squadron Hawks and Archangel Thune just being a one of. And then it does run Martyr of Sands and the Squad Hawks. And I even tried this was a Soul Sisters cat, but it has 2 Sacred Cats in here. That's why it's called Soul Sisters Cat. Just a few Soul Sisters brews. Soul Cats was where I put in Regal Caracals and Brahmazas. So this version, yeah, I think that we probably would have room if Ranger, for example, would be the horse. It'd take a lot for me to get rid of the Ranger, because the Ranger's a 3-for-1, but the horse is most likely going to be a 2-for-1 unless a Soul Attendant just happens to not be out. But the horse does seem good as a card under the Windbrisk Heights, as you can just flash it in and you'll gain the life off it coming into play, and then you'll get a 5/5. And like I said, there's very few decks in Modern. Sometimes you just need to establish those big beaters, and that's enough. I always talk about how I accidentally queued up one time with a standard deck in Modern, and actually did very well because people could not deal with a Thragtusk. It was back in the day when I was running like a Thragtusk Restoration Angel deck, so this been Innistrad days, and like at the time it was just a very, very Jund heavy attrition based, and a Thragtusk was really good, and just not a lot of people were running ways to deal with Thragtusk and then a 3/3 that is left behind. So that's what, a lot of times too, that Soul Sisters wins matchups where people aren't prepared to go against bigger creatures like the Pridemate and whatnot. Speaking of Soul Cats, go back to this one. The Double Strike Cat does seem pretty good with the Embalm or the Eternalize for a deck like this. It definitely replaced this White Sun Zenith. So there are some cool cards coming out for upgrades. This was just a trash card here. Get rid of White Sun Zenith completely. And yeah, the cat could easily go in this slot. So, yeah, I don't know. I've never tried a Cloud Goat Rain Drive just in Soul Sisters. It does actually seem pretty good. 4 creatures for 5 mana. Huh. Man, I get distracted by anything that's shiny. Anyway, I think that's what I'm going to call today for stream. Just wanted to show some of the spoilers. I'm trying to be on top of the spoiler videos, or the spoiler cards, more than I have been in the past. Right now I'm working on, I'll show you a little bit of a spoiler. Working on this bad boy for this month's Commander Spotlight, which is going to be the Locust God. And Locust God is very similar to Niv Mizzet Draco Genius, as you get value when drawing cards, and also feels very similar to Talrand and Talrand or Krenko and Prosh. Very similar to Talrand, Krenko, and Prosh. Let me pull it up here with the Locust God. I don't want the ugly one, but there's the Locust God. Whenever you draw a card, create a 1/1 blue insect creature token with flying and haste. Actually, it's going to be there will be a brew with this in Constructed or in Standard, by the way, because that haste is so relevant with a little card called Cryptolith Rite. So I do want to build a Locust God Cryptolith Rite deck. It's going to be very similar to an old school deck that I did with Cryptolith Rite with the Thopter. So the Thopter that gave the 3 mana spell, it's a Thopter that gave artifacts, or a 1/3 that put a Thopter into play and also gave artifacts haste. So basically, you could chain off a lot of cards with Cryptolith Rite, and the same can be said with the Locust God. There are a lot of cards that can chain off with, because it's for every card you draw, you put that many cards into play. So think about like Pull from Tomorrow, or I'm thinking like Reverse Engineer is one that comes to mind. But anything that draws a lot of cards, you can then create those insects, tap them from Cryptolith Rite, and then cast more spells to drive in more cards. So a lot of the 1-drop cycling cards can just pump and throw out a bunch of 1/1 hasters. So that's a card that I really am liking, the Locust God. There also is a brew with the other god, the Scarab God. I think the Scarab God is very, very good in a value-based deck with Rogue Refiners and just other things that have a lot of ETB effects. It's something that feels very similar to Whip of Erebos. So the deck that I want to put the Scarab God in is going to go into like a Sultai Energy. I'll show you that really quickly too. Man, I'm all over the place tonight. Sultai Energy. Right here. I think that instead of trying to go into Delirium, instead of like the Walking Ballista, this deck's done very well for me, by the way. It is insanely good versus the Teamer Energy and Green-Black Energy and Zombies. This does very well. Ishkanah does a very good job clogging up the board. You just need to get Delirium, and you can find it with Traverse at Wolvenwald. You can play a very, very low land count with Traverse, Attune, and Unbridled Growth. Anyway, but sneak peek of the Commander, back to the Commander deck. We have the Locust, which I'm going to try to brew and get that out for you I wanted to be by the end of the month, but I'm just looking at the calendar right here and I have a day left to do that. So yeah, it's not happening. But soon, hopefully Sunday-ish, we can release the Locust God for Commander. And as you can see, it's going to be very similar to like cards that run Niv Mizzet. There are a few combos I didn't include in this, like Intruder Alarm probably pairs very well with the Locust God. There's also like the Ashnod's Altar combo, so Ashnod's Altar plus Nim's Death Mantle plus Mold Drifter, or any other creature that draws 2 cards when it either comes into play or dies, creates an infinite combo with the Locust God. There's also cool cards like Mana Echoes that can do very similar things as well and create a bunch of infinite combos. But for this one, I just want a value-based deck. So a lot of cards either create cards, more little elemental creature tokens, and then have the win con kind of be like Perforos or Impact Tremors type thing. So anyway, so be looking forward to that. I think there's a lot of cool cards from Hour of Devastation. I've heard a lot of like negative Nancy's out there with this set, but I tend to like bad sets more than I like good sets. Like Kaladesh is turning out to being one of my most hated sets ever. Out of all the sets that have been printed, like I think that Kaladesh reminds me the most of Zendikar, old Zendikar, not new Battle for Zendikar, old Zendikar, meaning that all of the mechanics were so pushed, and it was hard to justify playing any other cards but the push mechanics of landfall back in the day with Zendikar. But in Kaladesh's artifacts or energy, you can even look at the top decks right now, and they're still just really very either artifact focused, or there was insanely pushed from Kaladesh, or energy focused. So anywho, yeah, that's going to be the stream. I appreciate everyone for joining the stream. I will catch you tomorrow. I might be doing a Patreon challenge with a deck, the Sandworm deck. It's all over the place at the moment because the patron wanted kind of a clue-based deck with the finisher being Sandworm Convergence. So I'm either going to live stream this or do this just as a deck tech tomorrow, and maybe we'll brew around it, and maybe I'll get some input on how to build. The challenge is to win with Greater Sandworm or Sandworm Convergence. So tomorrow sometime 7, 8, 9-ish Eastern Standard Time, we'll try to play this deck, or play a similar deck to this, running the Sandworms on live stream. So be looking forward to that. Anyway, take it easy, and we'll see you tomorrow.